Nancy McLain here, and she wants to speak, about this jobs bill and her version of how it went down. And Ron Gould couldn't be here; he's working today, but he did send a statement he wanted me to read. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to call Nancy up to talk what she has to say.
On the afternoon of Thursday, February 10th, at a brief closed meeting caucus of the Republican members of the state Senate, we were given what I call the Chinese placemat briefing on the so-called jobs bill. The placemat was a vague overview of the concept of the jobs bill. Please keep in mind we had no bill to read at this point, only the Chinese placemat. The senators had many questions and got very few answers. Most senators then left for home. The Senate doesn't meet on Fridays to allow the rural members to travel back to their districts for the weekend. On Monday, the 14th, in another closed caucus, a discussion was held on the jobs bill. We still didn't have a bill to read. Later that day, the governor called the legislature into special session. The special session was called to order, and the normal Senate rules that require 3 days to pass a bill were suspended. We are now on dangerous ground. In another closed caucus Tuesday morning, we finally received the written 218-page bill. I expressed my concern regarding the property tax shift onto residential rental property. Members of the Senate leadership immediately began to press the senators for votes. Bear in mind we had only received the written bill minutes prior. A majority of the caucus then left to the Appropriations Committee hearing. Senator Biggs is chairman and I am vice chairman. The hearing continued all day long without even taking a break for lunch. At 5:30, upon adjournment of the Appropriations Committee, we were advised that we are heading to the Senate floor to debate the jobs bill. We had been denied the proper time to read or prepare amendments to this 218-page bill. This was clearly a violation of my rights as a senator under the rules of the Senate. During floor debate, I expressed my concern with the speed that the bill was moved through the process. The fact that the newly formed Commerce Authority would be handed a $25 million closing fund with very little oversight on how they are to spend it was also troubling. I also expressed concern in regard to the confusion applying for a homeowner rebate every other year will cause the taxpayers. The next morning, the final vote was taken. I voted no, along with Senator Biggs and Gray. I cannot vote yes for a bill that I have not read. I have checked the records of the House of Representatives. Their timeline is very similar to that of the Senate in regard to the speed the bill was moved through the process. Signed, Senator Ron Gould. Undersigned, serving the taxpayers of Arizona's 3rd District.
Well, thanks for this opportunity. Just a little bit of a different perspective on this jobs bill. First, I have a question. Ron referred to the state aid to education, which is what shows up as a credit on your county tax bill. It's also known as the homeowner's rebate. And I'd like to know from folks in this room, before the last couple of weeks, maybe about a month, where this has become an issue, who knew what the homeowner's rebate was? Yeah, maybe one or two, 3 hands. Okay, that's part of the problem. Now this is, it comes as a credit on your property tax bill, but it's reimbursed to the county by the state, so it's a state expense, and it's called state aid to education. I'm not sure exactly why, but it is a line item in the Department of Education budget, so it comes out of the money that's allocated by the legislature to education. But it's a credit that you receive on your tax bill. For nothing in particular, it's just a credit. Most people don't know that. I don't see my residential home bill here, or tax bill, because it's paid by the bank that holds my mortgage. I can look it up online, I don't usually, but frankly, up until about 4 years ago, I was not even aware of this homeowner's rebate. So, there was a bill prepared and sponsored by Debbie Lesko, who's a majority whip. So it was a separate bill. It was eventually incorporated into the jobs bill, which passed, and we'll talk about just in a minute. One of the reasons for this sending out this acknowledgement that you are living in a home as your primary residence and are therefore entitled to the homeowner's rebate is that most people don't know Ron mentioned there are folks who have several homes, rental homes, and unless his office happens to catch it, they're getting the homeowner's rebate on rental property, and that's not what it's supposed to be for. He also mentioned, that was in my notes as well, that the banks were getting this. Now that's totally absurd. They shouldn't be getting what is intended to offset the property taxes of homeowners who actually live in the home on which they're paying taxes. The jobs bill, and Ron mentioned, both Rons mentioned that the bill was passed quickly, and it was. We were called into the special session within the session to pass this. But the homeowners rebate bill, as I mentioned, was a previous bill that had been discussed. The basis of the jobs bill was in our bill we passed last year, and the governor didn't agree with and vetoed. So that the main concepts within this bill had already been thoroughly discussed and vetted. Now, true, it wasn't in exactly the same form. There were some tweaks that were made to it between last session and this past session in January. But as far as passing quickly, it wasn't without a lot of discussion and without a lot of thought that went into how we could make this better. The whole theory behind House Bill 2001, second legislative special session, is Arizona is not a business-friendly state as far as its taxes are concerned, both property taxes and income taxes. As far as individual taxes are concerned, we're about in the middle of what we collect in taxes from individuals, but we are not competitive in attracting businesses. We have high property tax rates, we have high corporate tax rates. The intent of the jobs bill is to make Arizona a more business-friendly state. Companies are not leaving California and stopping in Arizona. They're jumping over and going to Texas or Utah. This bill, the whole intent behind it was to get more business here, to jumpstart our economy and get things moving again so we can provide jobs to those folks in Arizona who are unemployed. And because they're unemployed, they're losing their homes. They can't pay the mortgage on them. We need jobs. That's why it's called the jobs bill. Is it perfect? No. Ron has mentioned a couple of amendments that he's talking about. Be more than happy to look at any of those if we can improve this bill somehow. As to the property tax shift, may occur, may not. We're hoping that by bringing more businesses into the state, getting more people employed, we'll have higher revenues, both in property taxes, because more businesses will be paying property taxes, more income taxes, people will be working again, more sales tax, people will be buying things again, and then just in general, jumpstart the Arizona economy. That was the purpose of the bill. And let me just check and make sure. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, Ron is talking about doing this every 5 years. People on average, I think, move every 5 to 7 years. Maybe that's something to consider, I'm not sure. But in Arizona, it seems to be a pretty transient population, and so I think that's what became most Jewish. It was originally stated to be a 1 year. Every year you'd have to fill out the form. And someone said to me, well, gee, if we're only going to do it every other year, that seems like people will forget about it or something like that. And I said, well, it was originally done every year, but we thought that might be too much of a burden on people to have to do it every year. But frankly, to receive a credit on your tax bill that is in Mojave County between $100 and $150, statewide the average is $190, to fill out a form. We hope it's going to be a simple form, Ron, not a 17 thing. I'm not sure why it has to be that long. The question is, you're living in this home. Is this your principal? Or you're paying property taxes on this home? Is it your principal residence? Or are you renting it to a relative, a son or daughter, mother, father, steps, and I think that's about it. I mean, that's the basis that the basic things that we need to know. Are you as the owner of this home, are you its primary resident, or are you renting it to a very close relative? So I'm not sure where all the 17 points come from, but I think that's going to be refined.
Nancy?
Yes.
This 218-page bill, has everybody read it? No. You read it?
Oh, I cannot say I read every page of the bill. I read portions of it. We've gone over it in the concepts in detail with with legislative staff and with leadership. It's a long bill. It's got a lot of, as Ron was discussing some aspects of it, I could see a lot of blank stares in the room. Property taxes are very complicated, very confusing, and most people really don't understand what they're actually paying for when they pay their property tax bill. So there's a lot of detail in this bill. It has to be there because it relates directly to the assessed values of all different kinds of properties. But as I said, the concept had been discussed for over a year, and in the final bill, there were just some tweaks to it, things we thought would make it better, and which the governor had to approve. She vetoed last year's bill, so we had to work with her to get what she wanted in the bill so that she would actually pass it. Obviously, she was happy with it. That's why she called us into special session. The reason it was done in special session is for a regular session, which starts in January. This year ended up towards the end of April, but we have gone as late as June 30th. Regular bills that don't go through with an emergency clause, which makes them effective immediately, other bills are not effective until 90 days after the end of the legislative session. With a special session, with an emergency clause, they can become effective immediately. And so that's the reason for calling this into special session for that one particular bill. The Commerce Authority was the governor's, and believe me, that $25 million, what some people call a slush fund, was a concern to many of us. But the governor wanted it. She would not sign a bill otherwise without it. And the governor has the power of the veto. We can talk and talk and talk and say we don't like it, but if she's not going to sign it, if she won't sign a bill without it.
Who sponsored this bill?
This was Kirk Adams' bill.
Kirk Adams, and who were the other sponsors of the bill?
I think quite a few of us signed on to it.
Did you sign down to it as a sponsor?
I believe I did.
Without reading it?
I said I had read the previous bill. We had discussed the changes that were in the bill, and so yes, I did.
Well, my only thing is I feel like one of those corporate jet owners that Obama's going after, because I own a lot of property, and all of it in Mojave County, all of it in Arizona, and I employ people and I pay taxes, and I give Blue Cross and Blue Shield to my people, and I don't know how you're going to attract jobs and businesses and more tax to Mojave County if you're taking away, and it's just these little nips that keep biting and nipping into our ability to employ people and generate revenue. I mean, my properties, Ron will tell you, Ron knows fairly quick, because I've never missed an opportunity in 40 years to appeal my taxes, even if I'm satisfied with them. You know, Ron and I he's well aware of that, and I've lost millions in value in this property.
Of course, that's been happening to everyone. And so, you know, with rates increasing, the taxes may still be about the same. But what are we taking away?
I'm just saying it's a general issue. What are we doing with the corporate jet owners and that Obama's pot-shotting at? I mean, who in here owns a corporate jet? Nobody. But we're up. 2/3 of the people in here in the income bracket that anybody with a business is automatically in the income bracket that makes them that $250,000 or $230,000 a year. That we're all supposed to own corporate jets. Well, I don't own one. I couldn't afford one.
I don't understand what the state is not taking away anything that anyone has a right to, other than if you're renting a home that you claim as a primary residence, you will lose the homeowner's rebate. If you're a bank which holds property under a foreclosure proceeding, you will lose the homeowner rebate. Those two things, I don't think, are things that should be happening anyway. And that's where the $39 million comes in. We feel that when those people start paying what they should be paying without the rebate, it will be a net benefit to the state general fund of $39 million. That does not mean anyone's property taxes are going up by that amount, other than those two classes that I just mentioned, as far as the homeowner's rebate is concerned.